Well, if the current trend continues, the majority of Americans will support legalizing marijuana.
Marijuana, should it be legalized? Should it not? What would that do on a fiscal basis?
Medical marijuana is a new industry with a lot of demand but very little information.
There are doctors all over Arizona already that are recommending marijuana to their patients, but they're doing it in an extra legal manner.
It seemed just a few days ago Prop 203 was doomed to go down. Now medical marijuana all but a reality here in our state.
Now, the opponents argue that this measure prescribing medical marijuana could lead to the use of more illicit drugs, calling marijuana a so-called gateway drug.
The California Compassionate Use Act was intended to help seriously ill people, but the law has been hijacked by profiteers who are motivated not by compassion, but by money.
Growing, distributing, and possessing marijuana in any capacity other than as part of a federally authorized research program is a violation of federal law.
It's sad that the people did vote for it, but you know, that's America.
It's not clear yet when this lawsuit will get its day in court. In fact, attorneys told me today that the court could decide to reject this case altogether and decide not to hear it.
But there are those out there who say this is a way for lawmakers to basically take away the will of the people and get rid of medical marijuana here in Arizona before it starts.
We really need to kick into gear quickly because the time frame that we have to implement the act is very, very short.
A lot of the concerns that people are having are based off of California's law and the way it was implemented in California. California, basically, they have more dispensaries in the city of Los Angeles than they do Starbucks. They have over 800. Only going to be 120 dispensaries allowed in the state of Arizona.
The final count is in, and medical marijuana will be legal in Arizona.
Prop 203, medical marijuana, has passed. This has really stunned a lot of people because it didn't look like it was going to pass, and it appears it has. There's a lot of questions, though, now about how to enforce drug law.
What some are calling a medical marijuana cover-up buried beneath a pile of lawsuits.
The question whether state leaders trying to protect us or deceive us while they fight with the feds about the new law.
I'm afraid that we're not able to accept applications at this time.
It was supposed to be the first day of the application process for dispensaries.
Ultimately, we're going to have to answer this question at some point.
When politicians start looking after their own selfish interests, instead of looking after the people that they're supposed to take care of, we have a serious government abuse problem. And that's what's happening right here in Arizona.
Arizona Medical Marijuana Act, which was called Prop 203, was approved by the voters in November of 2010, November 2nd. It was a real close election. At first it looked like we were losing the election, and it took a couple weeks, but after the final count came in, we had won by a slim margin of about 4,000 votes, which is about a half a point.
Allan Sobel is one of the primary defendants mentioned in Governor Brewer's federal lawsuit. He is known in Arizona as the godfather of medicinal marijuana for his involvement with development of the industry after Prop 203 passed. Sobel is not only the founder, but he is also in charge of public relations at the 2811 Club.
The Arizona Medical Marijuana Act was approved by the Arizona voters on November 2nd, 2010. Under the Arizona Medical Marijuana Act, which was Arizona Revised Statutes 36-2801, it allowed for certain qualified individuals to obtain and use medical marijuana. The Act gave certain requirements. Only certain people with debilitating conditions that are spelled out in the Act were allowed to register with the Arizona Health Department and obtain a card which gave them permission to legally use medical marijuana. So all the Act did was decriminalize marijuana for certain individuals with those debilitating diseases. There are essentially four ways that a patient can obtain their medical marijuana. The first is the most obvious. They can go to a dispensary and purchase the marijuana over the counter. It's the only place you can legally buy marijuana in Arizona. Unfortunately, Governor Brewer stopped that program just days before it was ready to be implemented.
So basically what we're doing is we're not taking sides. We are asking for declaring judgment, if you will, to set the issue aside, and we can move forward from there. I will say this, that, we don't, as Attorney General Horn said, we do not want to thwart the will of the voters. It passed here in the state of Arizona. The bottom line is that now, because of the letter that I received from the U.S. Attorney, Mr. Burke, it really clouds the issue. And it's very, very clear, as I mentioned in my speech, what he has said. And this is the clearer and quickest and fastest way to get it resolved.
In Arizona, we have the Medical Marijuana Act that was passed by the majority of voters back in November of 2010. Since then, the government has done everything it can, really, to stifle that program. One of those efforts included preventing dispensaries from going into effect. The administration will not accept applications for dispensaries despite a specific mandate contained in the initiative requiring them to do so. As a result, patients haven't been able to obtain medication other than trying to find those supplies on the black market. Many of these patients are disabled. All of them have serious medical conditions, and so this has become a real problem.
I've always said change has enemies, and you've probably heard me say that before. The system is invested in prohibition. They make their money in law enforcement. That private business is a growth industry. They got the illegal aliens. They want to throw them in jail. They want to throw the medical marijuana patients and marijuana users in jail as well. They're making their money on that. So don't be fooled. It's not just principle. They're invested, and they're invested in the status quo, and they want to keep it the way it is as best they can. But then you start looking at some things. There's a recent Gallup poll, and we were talking about the Rand company being a rather conservative. Gallup is the respected poll company, and at this point, 50% of Americans favor legalization of marijuana. First time ever. 7 out of 10 favor legalization of medical use. So we're talking about almost 3/4 of the country now.
The first three options, going to a dispensary, growing yourself, or hiring a caregiver, is really not an option for the majority of people, which are about, as of the time of filming this, about a little over 13,000 people have applied for the card.
The future of medical marijuana is inevitable, and it's here, whether people want it or not, and they do want it. And that's obvious because it's been voted. It's going to take a little more time, a lot more effort from us, from every one of us that believes in this as a medicine. Not let people like Al do all the work by himself. And if we can do that, I really believe we're going to see legalization for medical marijuana for patients, over-the-counter Tylenol here soon. I'm talking maybe 2016.
We can't send patients to the street. We can't send patients to random caregivers who haven't been growing marijuana as medicine for long, just trying to hop on a bandwagon. Instead, we decided to do it ourselves. So here we are. We've partnered up with some great caregivers to help the patients. And of course, we've done our best to not only reach the letter of the law, the medical marijuana law, but also to lean towards the intent of it and really keep it medical, really help patients, and do everything we can, not only for, of course, our patients, but to really help this industry thrive as well.
The 2011 Club litigation is essentially based on the government's position that any type of place that a patient can go is offensive to them. So the underlying reason is she doesn't want to legitimize medical marijuana. She disagrees with it politically, and rather than follow the will of the voters, she instead would follow her own political ambition, placating what she determines to be the, political correct thing to do for her core constituents.
Well, I did oppose it. I went public with that because I thought it wasn't a good idea. The bottom line is, and I can't stress it enough, that I believe that we need clarification so that there's no penalty found on people that are promoting the facilitating of the sale of marijuana in the state of Arizona. I believe in the people's right to vote. I've always believed that, particularly since I'm a past elections director for the state. I believe in the will of the people. I think the people are smart. Unfortunately, with this piece of legislation, there are some pretty serious consequences if we don't get a resolve, if we don't get it answered. And I, as governor, am not willing to put those people at risk.
But I still think there's an underlying agenda to the majority of the people, and this is why the governor is trying to put a stop on it.
Well, why doesn't the governor make it accessible and not such a horrible crime, and then maybe there wouldn't be all the people trying to make illegal money on it?
Well, do you think then, let me ask you this, do you think the United States government really doesn't care about the people that have the inoperable cancer, that are on their way to either going to heaven or hell?
I think it's pretty obvious what the federal government cares about, and I don't think it's the people.
I've been in the marijuana business since September of 2010. I got involved in it, not being involved in the marijuana industry before, as a result of a client asking me to help her get a dispensary. We became the #1 company in Phoenix to help people get dispensaries. We had over 200 clients that we were helping. About 6-8 months after we got involved in this business, I had a news reporter come to me and he quoted something in the newspaper. He called me the godfather of Arizona medical marijuana. I got to tell you, at first I was a little offended by that. I didn't want to have that negative connotation hanging over me, but when I asked him why he came up with that, he said, it's nothing bad. He said, I consider it to be a compliment. You've achieved something that nobody's ever achieved in Arizona. Marijuana's been around for a lot of years here as an industry, and no one's ever brought it together like you have. He says, so the old godfathers from back east were powerful because they had a network. They put together all different diverse groups of people to help them further their objectives. He says, you, for a legal purpose, you did it. You did the same thing here in Arizona. We started that company to help people get their dispensary license. We started the Arizona Medical Marijuana School, which is called the Arizona Cannabis University. We started all kinds of groups of people. We put together an Arizona Association of Tradespeople. We put together a patient caregiver. We put together a caregiver group. And just all in all, we networked the entire industry. And then most recently, we put together the entire industry. We had we formed what they call a solidarity council, and we brought all the different groups together in one room and helped them. It's going to help us form a unified voice in responding to the problems we've been having with the government here in Arizona. So, I guess the name Godfather is perhaps appropriate for that reason, but for no other.
The 2011 Club is perhaps and more than likely the best example of a compassion club or patient association, as they've been called here in Arizona. The 2011 Club did its homework ahead of time and has put together a model that is quite legal under the law. The 2011 Club does not receive any money for marijuana. The 2011 Club is a private club. It charges a membership fee. One might expect that since the governor refused to implement the dispensary portion of 2011 Club because of her concern that state employees might be subject to federal prosecution, that she would welcome this solution to that problem, since no state employees are involved in the operations of compassion clubs or patient associations. But rather than applaud and support the 2011 Club and other organizations like it, the governor has sought to, and the Attorney General's office have sought to destroy that effort and to shut down every location where patients can go to receive medication.
By this Friday, I will file a declaratory judgment action in federal court. The plaintiffs will be the governor, the Department of Health Services, and DPS. The defendants will include all those parties who have taken, the prominent parties have taken a position, those who pushed the proposition and those who defended against it. And we, as the plaintiffs, will let them fight out the substance.
If the government is successful in shutting down the 2011 Club, which being the most perfect model right now, would also consequently have the effect of shutting down all the other similar types of operations, it would have the effect of denying the vast majority of patients, registered patients, their ability to obtain medicine. But it won't stop the state from continuing to collect $150 per application. They've made over $2 million so far on patients, and while at the same time denying them any reasonable and meaningful method to obtain their medication.
She did stop the dispensary program, so with that she eliminated the most obvious and easiest way for people to obtain the medical grade marijuana that they were allowed to under the law. The second option for qualified patients was to grow their own. Under the Act, they're allowed to grow up to 12 plants of their own marijuana. Unfortunately, that's not really viable for most people. Most people that qualify for the Act are elderly. They're usually 45, 50, and much older. They all have serious debilitating diseases. Clearly, it'd be impossible for them to grow their own marijuana and harvest it. Secondly, some people don't have the money to grow their own. It's very expensive to grow quality grade marijuana like that. A lot of these people are on access and Medicaid. They just don't have the financial wherewithal. The third choice would be to retain the services of a caregiver. Under the Act, a patient can hire the services of a caregiver so long as you're not compensating that caregiver. The caregiver can grow your marijuana. The caregiver can have up to 5 patients plus himself, grow 12 plants for each one of those individuals, so they can grow 72 plants, and the patient is allowed to reimburse the caregiver for the out-of-pocket expense.
Just having a place to go that's legal and dignified, where I'm treated like a patient rather than a criminal, and I don't have to expose myself to a criminal element in order to get my medicine.
You know, appointing a caregiver is actually a very personal matter, and it's sometimes very difficult to find somebody that you trust to grow the marijuana, effectively and grow the quality grade marijuana that you're going to need. And again, there are other issues that really don't make it a very viable option for a lot of people. So
essentially what she wants to prevent is from medical marijuana to be something that's accepted by the public. Obviously, if there are dispensaries, it would be something the public would be able to see. They'd be able to see that it's a tremendous benefit to the community, a lot of jobs generated, a lot of tax revenue, other businesses benefiting by being in close proximity to dispensaries where a lot of people would be going. But she doesn't want a substitution or a solution to the dispensary, which would be compassion clubs. Again, same problem in her mind. It provides a venue where patients can go where they know they'll be able to receive their medication. This the administration will not tolerate, neither the governor nor the attorney general.
To borrow a catchphrase from our brethren down at the Occupy Wall Street movement, we are the 51%. Okay? While individually we represent our own little associations and organizations, together, however, we represent the 51% of the voters that approved Prop 203. And that is very, very important. That gives us a much greater voice in government.
Al's gone to great lengths to make this 2811 Club the premier medical marijuana facility here, really bending over backwards to follow the laws in the strictest possible interpretations. But that has not stopped the government from going after them. The reactionary folks who run this state are very opposed to marijuana. I suppose they believe their constituency is as well. But I think they misread the will of the people, because even in the conservatives now, most of the electorate is baby boomers, and baby boomers just don't hate pot.
Under 2811, patients are allowed to exchange marijuana amongst themselves so long as there's nothing of value exchanged. So if I'm a qualified patient and let's say somebody else is a qualified patient and I want to give that patient some of my marijuana, I'm free to do that so long as I don't charge him for it or have anything of exchange. And that's where we got the name for the club. So there's really is no way for one patient, unless you already know somebody, there's no way to find another patient that you can exchange this marijuana with. And that's how the club was born. We realized that qualified patients needed a place where they can interact and network with each other. And we developed the 2011 Club to be just that. It's an educational resource center that allows patients to come in and share their marijuana, but more importantly, it's a place they can come in and attend classes on all different aspects of marijuana. They can interact with each other. We have all kinds of entertainment in the club. We have a lounge area, we have Wi-Fi, we have entertainment. It's a great place for patients to come and interact. So it's a one-of-a-kind facility in the state of Arizona, and it's truly a real resource for patients that have nowhere else to go in Arizona.
Actually, I come here to bond with other people with the same conditions I have. Talk to people. I educate some people about the uses of marijuana and the best strain that they can use, and we have a good time here.
Just 5 days before the state was set up to accept applications for dispensaries, Governor Jan Brewer filed a federal lawsuit against the law, questioning its legality.
Ever since the passage of the Arizona Medical Marijuana Act in November 2010, a question was created regarding the legality of both the act and the subsequent Arizona Administrative Code provisions enacted as required by the act. In addition, and equally important, there is now real concern that state employees will be subject to federal criminal prosecution. According to the United States Attorney, because marijuana is a controlled substance listed in Schedule 1 of the Federal Controlled Substance Act, growing, distributing, and possessing marijuana, and I quote, in any capacity other than as part of a federally authorized research program is a violation of federal law, regardless of state laws that purport to legalize such activities. End of quote.
Well, the way the laws are right now, to be able to do research is outlawed unless you go through the DEA and through the government of the United States. You cannot do research. It is outlawed.
Anything you think of medicinal marijuana had this cure for, and I would recommend it for anybody that's on 12 pills a day.
This is a beautiful thing that happened, especially for sick people, and let's not blow it out of proportion and try to all this negativity.
For those of you that have not heard, Carolyn Short from Keep Arizona Drug Free just announced that she's forming a committee to repeal Prop 203 next year. Now, I got to tell you, folks, that doesn't scare me one bit. Because all of us together here and the associations that we all represent will present a very formidable force to be reckoned with. Together, we send a very powerful message to Carolyn Short, to Governor Brewer and Tom Horn, that we represent the majority of voters here in Arizona that approved Prop 203. That's almost 1 million people. It's about almost 900,000 people voted for Prop 203. Those are our new constituents. Those are the members of our new organization. Those are the people that we represent. Now, if you add up all the members of our individual associations, I'm sure it doesn't come anywhere near that, because most of these people are silent. But if we come as a unified industry and a unified community, then we do, in fact, represent the voters that approve that. And we can proudly stand our heads up and say, we represent almost 1 million people. What that does, it raises the eyebrows of every state legislator and every state politician. We're no longer a group representing 50 or 100 or 200 or 1,000 people. We are now a group representing 1 million and more.
My name is Rick Simpson, and I used to live at 344 Little Forks Road, about 8 miles outside of Spring Hill, Nova Scotia. Back in 1997, I suffered a severe head injury, and I went through the medical system. They did nothing for me. Everything they gave me just made matters worse. So in the end, I wound up trying to find my own cure, and I more or less stumbled onto hemp medicine. So I produced the essential oil from the hemp plant, and it did me, well, it's the only medication I've ever seen that helps me with this, what I have is post-concussion syndrome.
I'm Dr. Robert Mellamy, PhD. My specialty for my degree was biochemistry and molecular genetics. I've been very much of a pro-cannabis activist my whole life, What we're trying to do, actually, we're trying to do a number of things, but I would say that leading the charge is our effort to go through the FDA with cannabis-based medicines so that they would be available anywhere in the country, as well as we're working in other countries as well to move forward with cannabis-based medicines.
My name's T.F. and I had squamous cell carcinoma, big, ugly, what looked like ulcerated anthills growing on your head. And they're very, very painful.
Stress the fact, this is not simply about cancer. This medicine literally is a cure-all. It works on all forms of disease. So then in, 2003, I had 3 areas of skin cancer. And I had one close to my eye here. And I went in and they operated on it. But when I was looking at it, a report that I had heard almost 30 years before on the local radio station, CKDH in Amherst, they announced, what I had heard was a study from the U.S., and they announced that THC, the active ingredient in marijuana, has been found to kill cancer cells.
People are unaware, for example, that the major neurotransmitter in our brains is the cannabinoid system. It's not dopamine, acetylcholine, serotonin. It's the cannabinoid receptors. So they play this unique, all-pervasive role in our biochemistry, and they are essentially anti-aging drugs.
I was diagnosed, it must have been now about a couple of years ago, with a basal cell carcinoma cancer on the right side of my face, on my cheek, just quite near my nose. And that was diagnosed with a biopsy from my dermatologist, who then recommended me to see a plastic surgeon to have it removed.
So I took some of this essential oil and I put it on 2 bandages and I put it on the other 2 areas of cancer that I had. Within 4 days, the cancers were cured. I started telling my friends and things about this, and I explained, what I had done, and, it was, yeah, right, Rick, marijuana cures cancer. Nobody believed it. But then the one that they had surgically removed right next to my eye, it came back. And so I just went down and I got some oil, put it on a bandage, put it, on the affected area, and 4 days later, it cured it. It was completely cured, just pink skin.
Rick certainly is a pioneer in what has occurred in terms of understanding from a practical point of view the value of cannabis in terms of its capacity to kill cancer. What Rick has done is given us anecdotal data that indicates its value in humans. And here in Colorado, where we have pretty decent in many respects, bad in others, medical marijuana program, we've been able to verify what Rick has observed. So I think the world owes Rick quite a debt of gratitude.
Look, I got on the phone, called around, and I located people who referred me to Dr. Bob. And Dr. Bob, I've been under his guidance now for a month and a half. And I've been using the medication, and the photos kind of speak for themselves, even though it still looks very gross up there. What I can tell you is literally every day there's a piece of a tumor falling off of me.
Cancer is just one thing. It's mutating cells. If you've got something that can kill mutating cells, well, why aren't we using it? If you look at the history of this plant, the medicinal use of this plant, it's been used for thousands of years. And the only reason it was ever denied, it was all due to these big money guys, like the Rockefellers and people like that. They introduced allopathic medicine from chemicals. Of course, they owned the chemical plants, didn't they? So that's what this was all about. And then the medical schools that they controlled through their foundations, that's all they taught doctors. Allopathic medicine. They turned their back on the natural ways, the natural plants that can heal us.
I met a Swiss nurse who told me about the cannabis extract. Well, she told me about Rick Simpson and Rick Simpson's treatment, so I began to research that. And from there, I went on that little journey of self-medicating, like using the oil, of which I made pictures of it. And it brought the whole thing out, and it was quite nasty. It felt quite aggressive and nasty at the time of the treatment, but I could see what it was doing. And after a couple of weeks treatment, the whole cancer fell off.
It works on all forms of diseases. It does your body nothing but good. And these drug companies like Eli Lilly, Parke-Davis, Squibb, all of them back in the 1800s, early 1900s, they were all producing hemp-based medicines. So, but the thing was, they controlled the potency of it. See, they want to return business. If you give the public something that actually heals them, there's no return business.
It was a little bit after that I went back to see the plastic surgeon, and I received a biopsy on that cancer, and he wrote a letter to state that cancer is now appears to be all gone, and he sent that back to my dermatologist. And he did ask me what I did, and I didn't tell him. I said I just used a tar extract from a plant, and he wrote that in the actual letter back to the dermatologist. So I have confirmation that the cancer was there, the cancer's now gone, and the cancer has not come back. So that's the story. And so that then propelled me to move forward with pursuing this medicine as a treatment for other people. Prior to using that treatment, I had never ever been involved in the cannabis world. I'd never smoked. I never knew anything. I was pretty much like most other people, where it's been brainwashed into us that this is a bad drug, and never ever thought of considering it as a holistic herb. And so that's the story now. So I'm now busy, formed a company, and pursuing creating a formulation, and we have a team working on that, and hopefully we'll get lots of people healed with skin cancer without having to have surgery.
She should be able to. All right.
Hello? Hi, Annie.
Yes.
Hey, how you doing? This
Hello,
is
how are you?
great. Yeah, this is Ray. So anyhow, I just wanted to give you a call. About 15 minutes out. Okay. Just wanted. Okay, great. So you're still available? Wonderful.
Yes.
My name's Ray Ruskowski. I'm a caregiver here in Phoenix, Arizona. All right. And I'll go in more detail when I get there, but I'm just going to let you know I got a nice selection of medicine for you. I think you'll definitely enjoy those. Alrighty. Well, hey, wonderful. I just wanted to double check, make sure everything is still good to go, and we'll see you here shortly. All right. All right. Take care.
Bye.
Things that. I really feel this issue, it should unite people. I don't care, what your race or your color or background. I mean, we're talking about, saving the earth and saving lives. And this is a plant for the people, by the people.
With the governor and everything that they're all deciding, I feel like people who really need medical marijuana are not being heard. At 15, I was diagnosed with endometriosis.
I suffer from Crohn's disease.
I have a cirrhosis stage 4 of the liver.
I was diagnosed with renal failure at the age of 17.
I was diagnosed a couple years ago, and originally we treated it with traditional pharmaceutical medicines, and they didn't really help that much, and as a result of it, I lost my appetite, I lost a lot of weight. I still was experiencing a lot of the same symptoms, which caused me to drop out of school. I didn't have the energy to keep working. I wasn't able to operate and function in the way that I, normally do. I wasn't able to enjoy life anymore.
Wound up deciding to have surgery to fix the problems, supposedly very easy. In and out procedure, hour and a half. 4 days passed by. I was doing terribly. I couldn't walk. I was screaming in pain. They sent my parents home saying that I was a baby. I was making this up.
It took a very long time for my kidneys to fail completely, so I went through a very slow illness to get to the point where I had no kidney function whatsoever.
Then, like 30 minutes after my parents leave, about 7 nurses walk in with white faces and just stare at me. And I was like screaming, like, what? And they're like, well, wait, just wait.
Because the treatment is very severe. And there again, there's people going through a lot worse than I am.
This nurse walks in with about a tube this long and about this big around, and without telling me what she's gonna do, she just says, breathe out through your mouth and in through your nose, and shoves it up my nose, down into my stomach, starts pumping my stomach.
Nausea, vomiting, not being able to eat, not being able to function like a normal person because of the things that affect you medically.
I pass out, woke up. A month later, in a different part of the hospital, I had gone into multi-system organ failure because of my intestines had leaked into my abdominal cavity, and so your organs start to shut down and in protection of that. And they had put me into a medically induced coma because of the trauma and the shock that I would go into when I wake up. I woke up with tubes everywhere, my stomach being pumped. I was in the hospital for 3 months, and I started on prescription medication.
Medical marijuana helps people, and it allows people with certain ailments to function normally and when they otherwise wouldn't be able to without the use of harsh pharmaceutical drugs.
I've smoked marijuana since I was 13 years old, but I never dreamed that at some point it would play such a big part in my life.
The medication helps, just tremendously. Not just the attitude, but my physical ability to be able to eat and keep a balanced diet.
I was taking Oxycontin, the highest strength, twice a day, Vicodin, Percocet, 2 6 times a day, highest strength, and I had a fentanyl patch, which is just straight opium into your bloodstream.
I've been very fortunate to be able to have access to medical marijuana because I truly believe that I would not be alive at this time.
So we looked into it, and I obtained my card, and now am legally able to smoke marijuana. And as a result of it, I've gained weight back, and back in school, and I'm doing very well, and I have a healthy, happy relationship.
For the first time in 5 years, I could feel stuff. I had been so numb from the opiates that I was just walking through life in a daze, and it was for the first time I actually started to feel life.
Marijuana is an all-natural healing substance in that it really does work, and it's a wonderful alternative to pharmaceutical drugs, which often ruin people's lives through addiction and organ failure.
In my opinion, if you legalize marijuana, it's not like a million more people all of a sudden start smoking. The same amount of people are still going to be smoking weed. You're just now going to have people doing it legally for health reasons.
I kind of look at it as a miracle medicine, I really do.
Hi there, I'm David. Welcome to Phoenix Green Cross. We are a medical marijuana clinic. We help patients with their medical marijuana needs, whether it be getting them evaluated for Arizona's medical marijuana program or helping them get access to the medicine that they require.
I'm Dr. Sam Walker. I'm a family practice physician in Phoenix, Arizona, and I spend a lot of my time at Phoenix Green Cross, which is a medical marijuana clinic here in town.
I'm here with Dr. Roger Adair. Doctor is one of the doctors that does medical evaluations at our clinic.
Well, I'm an HPATH medical doctor, and I've been licensed here in Arizona for about 7 years now. And I got involved with the cannabis recommendations. Basically, it's an opportunity for me to explore the issues of natural medicine and basically bringing out the best health that a person can be.
The state of Arizona has given us a law that allows us to use marijuana in medical situations. This is a positive thing in my view. Having been a physician for many years, having to use strictly narcotics to take care of pain is a blessing and a curse.
Well, the state sets certain limitations and certain requirements as to what qualifies a patient. So if a patient does meet those requirements, then of course they can certainly meet with our doctor and become part of the program.
Well, we and myself, we are licensed. We do have a DEA license. We are licensed to prescribe pharmaceuticals. That is not our focus. In fact, one of the big focus, I should say, with having a DEA license is to get people off of these pharmaceutical medicines.
With marijuana, we have a chance to help with some of these chronic pain patients, which, as I said, is probably the largest majority of folks that qualify for medical marijuana. We have a chance to help them to decrease their narcotic use in favor of the medical marijuana, which shares none of the same side effects as the narcotic medications.
Well, we do our best to meet all of their medical marijuana needs and also be able to answer their traditional medical questions. Many patients are new to this. They don't necessarily understand what it takes to utilize the medicine, whether it be through the inhalation of the smoke, through vaporization, whether it be through edibles and candies or tinctures. We also help patients from the perspective of educating them as to what it takes to garden as well. The state of Arizona has allowed patients to ultimately be their own gardeners, grow their own medication. And it's not quite as easy as throwing some seeds in the garden and watching it grow. So we also make sure to help people by doing consultations, by teaching them and making sure that they can grow their own medicine as well.
The vast majority of people I'm seeing are probably around my age, 45 plus, and they have severe, debilitating chronic symptoms. And pain is pretty much how that manifests.
The qualifying diagnoses for medical marijuana in the state of Arizona are, in my opinion, quite limited. They include acquired immune deficiency syndrome, or AIDS, ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, Crohn's disease, HIV, agitation of Alzheimer's disease, not just Alzheimer's disease, but if you're agitated, then you qualify, cancer, glaucoma, hepatitis C. There are also sort of sub-diseases that are legal, and they include cachexia or wasting syndrome, severe nausea, seizures, and severe and chronic pain. I would say that based on the numbers that we've seen in Arizona, severe and chronic pain is by far and away the most frequent diagnosis.
So this is the entry of our clinic. When patients come through the door, they will be greeted at the window by one of our employees or one of the volunteers or patients here at our clinic. They will be asked to either fill out one of two forms. If they are a repeat patient and they've seen us before, they'll provide us a follow-up evaluation, let us know how they're doing, let us know how their narcotic drug use has been, whether or not it's been down or up, really how their general health is. If they are not a repeat patient and they're looking for their evaluation or have never been here before, they'd fill out more of an extensive form for us to really give us a basis as to why they're utilizing marijuana as medicine, and really give us the ability to nail it down and figure out how to help them best.
Have you had many people come in that with a wink and young kids saying, "Hey, I need to get my medical marijuana card"? Have any of those, or is it
in
mostly...
the beginning? It started out that way. Certainly, when I was working with the 2011 Club, until the word got out that we are doing it the way the DHS Department, the Arizona Department of Health, has mandated, and that is everybody comes in with their medical records from the previous year, and especially those that refer to their debilitating condition.
I have to pull the substance, the Board of Pharmacy substance report for every patient. This is a report that's generated by the Arizona Board of Pharmacy that indicates all of the controlled medications that a patient has taken over the past 2 to 3 years. I have to examine that, and then I sit down with the patient and go over their vital signs, which have already been taken, and do a focused medical examination depending on what the problem is, so that I can record that as a baseline in the patient's chart. After we've gone through that physical examination, then it's question and answer time, and we talk about the different treatments that are available, different strains of medical marijuana, and what might be the best way to start out with their therapy.
So once our patients have filled out their paperwork, they are brought back into our clinic by one of our medical assistants into our exam room, have their vitals taken prior to meeting with the doc. Once they've had their vitals taken, they're taken back to the doc or left in the exam room if they need to be, if the exam room needs to be utilized by the doctor. The doctor will then, of course, review their qualifying conditions for the state of Arizona and answer any and all of their medical marijuana questions.
And in your experience in dealing with the opiates and all the other Oxycontins and all that, these patients typically have other side effects that are directly related to the use of those drugs, in your opinion? Or,
Well, sure, you can see when they come in, some of them are so heavily medicated they're just falling asleep during the interview, and they have to be helped by family members to come in. And I've just heard horror stories from people, how it's destroying their brains, how it's destroying their lives, and the addictions that accompany this. So yeah, I believe it's these basically like Oxycontin, heroin, hillbilly heroin is destroying the fabric of our society.
If you've just broken your ankle, it's a good thing to take a narcotic pain reliever for a few days to help with the acute pain. But if you present with chronic pain, back pain, shoulder pain, pain that's not going to go away, most likely, then taking narcotics is kind of a life sentence to abdominal problems, constipation, nausea, weight gain, and just general drowsiness and fatigue. Not a good way to live.
One of the neat things about marijuana is that it's got tons of active cannabinoids in it that really do treat different things. And the most popular one, the one that everybody knows about, is THC. And THC it's a fantastic cannabinoid, and it does lots of great things. But there seems to be a dynamic shift happening in medical marijuana. There's another cannabinoid called CBD out there, and CBD has known to offer all sorts of medicinal effects. From let's see, I'll check my little cheat sheet here that I have, and you've got color-coded cannabinoids, and your CBD count here is the blue one. It treats more things here than your THCs will, and it'll help protect against pain, against cancer, reduce nausea. It's a pain reliever. Now, the one thing that you won't notice here is it doesn't actually get you that high feeling that your traditional THC will. So the dynamic shift is in the pain relief, in the anti-nausea, in all the really good medicinal effects without necessarily causing that high feeling. So we as a clinic, we're working very hard with other growers and seed banks and other people in the industry to find a medicine that has a very high CBD content rather than a THC content for our patients.
Okay, what can you say to all the viewing audiences? What procured this documentary of 2811 Story? Because so far, what you've said, I do relate to you, and I do understand that because I know someone firsthand of an inoperable cancer.
Everybody knows of somebody firsthand. It's just whether or not they want to admit it and actually admit that the medical marijuana is helping that person. Right. And I guarantee you, every single person that knows somebody would say that it is helping them. Judges, lawyers, cops, DEA agents, everybody knows. I'd just like to show you what you can do with a small cabinet. This definitely isn't the 60s marijuana. As you can see, if you zoom in, you can really see the crystals form very early in flowering too. All your medication stems from is right there. As you can see, it's just a harmless looking flower that grows. It actually is incredibly exotic and incredibly beautiful if you really look at it. I'm going to take a little time. There's a couple different ways to start marijuana growing. You can either do it from a seedling and have a warm pad and start out that way. That way it does take a little bit longer, anywhere from about 15 to 20 days to get some good lateral feeding roots off of it. The second way to do it is to, and I'm going to take a little time to show you, is I'm going to take what we call clones. A clone is basically off of a mother plant. As you can see, there's a mother plant back here, and this is the top part of the plant. So basically, to prep it for cloning, you just take your razor blade, make sure your razor blade's a brand new razor blade and clean. And you just cut off the bottom two nodes, so you're left with that right there. And this is called Clonex. You're welcome for plugging you. It's one of the best cloning solutions that's out there. And you basically just take it, you want to dip about a fourth of an inch of the stem in it. And if you have a cloning machine like this one, I'm at a fellow caregiver's house named Philly who lets me take clones and give them away to people that are in a little bit more need. So you take it just like that with a little purple in the end, about to drip. Take it in here, put it in between the neoprene, pop it in there, set it there. And don't forget that I do this for all the people out there that are believing the cause since this was taken into a class 1 and turned into a large crime, which is kind of crazy to call that a class 1 felony. All right, pulling up to AZ med testing. We're gonna have a latest batch that I grew tested to make sure there's no pesticides or molds or aphid flies or spider mite webbings or anything that a responsible caregiver like myself goes through the steps to make sure that the patients aren't ingesting any crap.
Hello, I'm Brenda. I have a degree in biology from Arizona State University. I fell into chemistry by means of a coworker who had a minor in chemistry and got a job doing environmental chemistry, and I've spent the past 7 years, I think, doing environmental chemistry. So that's kind of my background. And patients needed their samples tested because if it was going to be a medication, that we needed to test it. So this is something that patients need to be aware of. The other thing that they need to be aware of is not every person who has cancer wants to feel that high, and they need to be able to know to go find the sample that has the CBD in it, not the THC. And the only way that they're going to know that is either trial and error, which sucks, or you can come in and you can get it tested, and I will tell you right away that it's exactly what's in it, and and you're not wasting your money, you're not wasting your time, and you're not afraid to try it, and you're not, because if you don't want the high, you're afraid to try something. Well, if I tell you that it's not going to get you that high and you're actually going to feel better, it's something that you're going to be able want to ingest, and it's something that you're going to be able to still function and take care of your children or whatever it is that you need to do.
The way I see it is that the federal government's finally figured out a way to make money. So instead of just coming flat out and saying, look, okay, we're going to legalize it, but this is what you're going to pay us to do it. They've figured out that you can't do it that way. So they've figured out that, all right, so we go buy up all the patents. And as Brenda can tell you, that right now it's illegal to do research on medical marijuana. Well, it won't be as soon as the federal government gets their hands on it, which they're already doing. They bind up the patents. And as soon as they do that, they're not going to go to a small guy like me to run their grow op or to have them.
No, they're going to corporations like Marlboro.
Oh, of course.
Absolutely. That's
go
the research.
Go to big tobacco.
Absolutely.
They'll bread up your pocket.
Philip Morris owns over 50,000 acres of land in the Emerald Triangle, California's prime location for medical marijuana grow operations. They have also reserved several different cannabis brand names in anticipation of its legalization on the federal level.
This has been going on for decades. This putting the big corporations in charge of our nation. It's the big oil industry, it's the big pharmaceutical industry, it's the insurance companies, and that's just a handful of them. People need to understand why it's not being legal. There's a need for it. There are patients out there who need it, who are requesting it, who are buying it illegally with the potential to go to jail because they're sick. So right now where the medical marijuana is we're fighting at a state level. The state's attempting to get the feds involved. Hopefully the government of the United States will see this is something we need, and they already know it. But this is the way that someone like Little Joe and me can go forward and say, we support this, we want this, people need this.
It just amazes me how the government can say that there is no medicinal value in it when a medical laboratory could tell you otherwise. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of uses for it, and I think anybody that has problems should be looking into medical marijuana as a solution.
There have been no prosecutions in other states that have medical marijuana laws. What makes you think that they would go after Arizona if they haven't gone anywhere else?
I found it interesting that the letter was so straightforward, so direct, and very, very clear what the message was. I did not take it lightly, and certainly today, coming forward to announce this, I did not take lightly either. But I believe that it's my responsibility as the governor to do what I believe is right, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to move forward, and we're going to get it clarified.
Well, John, we're near the Bell and I-17. Police raided the 2811 club about 12:30 today. They say they received several complaints from people in the community that were complaining that marijuana was being bought and sold here. Now, we did talk to a spokesperson for the club tonight who tells us that everything going on inside these doors is perfectly legal.
I'll tell you, when I woke up this morning, I thought I was still in America. A few hours later, I found out, and I got to put that into serious question. Got a phone call about 12 o'clock that our club was being raided. Apparently the Phoenix police came busting in here with ski masks on and full metal jackets.
The police officers that were here in their ski masks said it over and over again, that they were here on behalf of the Attorney General's office because, quote, this has to be settled one way or the other. Well, guess what? They're right. It does need to be settled one way or the other, and that court order from a Superior Court judge defines exactly how it was to be settled through settlement conference, disclosure, negotiations, coming up with stipulated facts. That was how it was supposed to be settled.
No, I don't think that the police had the right to do that. I think that they violated everybody's rights that were here. I think they went a step towards, back in history when you had these police raids and, were given no excuse on why it happened to you. They're just gonna come, take you away, bust down your door, tear up your stuff, and, off to jail you go.
When they did pass the law, it wasn't just to decriminalize medical marijuana, that people should do the same old thing, but we won't arrest them. It provided legal access to medical marijuana, provided for dispensaries, and then provided for caregivers, self-cultivation, and exchanges among patients. All that is there with the concept that the voters voted for legal access to medical marijuana. Government is doing everything they can. The state is doing everything they can to stop that. Apparently they have some reactionary view, don't seem to think the voters know what's good for them, and think they know better. But at the same time, they have now given cards and approved over 13,000 patients.
We went to great lengths when we developed that 2011 club to be totally legal and honest. We developed a business model that we felt, in consulting with 5 different attorneys, we felt it was in full compliance with state law. We were so confident of that, we decided to be totally transparent. We invited the police, we invited the governor, we invited Bill Montgomery, we invited Tom Horn, we invited Will Humble. We said, guys, come on down and look at this club. We invite you in, no conditions, no appointment necessary, come anytime you want. Come into the club because we're not afraid, we know we're doing this right.
I think our rights were violated. We have every right, just as anybody, to run a business. And they came in and stopped all that and really didn't give us a reason why.
What they did was a real slap in the face to the judge that's been handling this case. That judge has already ordered that he's not going to close us down until the end of the case. The Attorney General's office wanted him to issue a preliminary injunction, essentially closing us down until the case was resolved. And the judge said, no, I'm not going to do that. You show me one Arizona statute that shows that we're in violation of the law, and I will close this place down. If the judge rules that we're illegal, I will close this place down the same day. So what justification can these guys have to come in here and do this?
From the voters of Arizona who voted for this, from people who expected to get legal access, and instead they're doing everything they can to deny that legal access. So out of one hand, out of one side of their mouth, they're taking the money from these people, over $2 million so far. On the other side of their mouth, they're shutting it down and they're not letting the people get what they paid for. And the bottom line is they've given out 13,000 cards. People have the expectation that they can legally get marijuana. The free market is an incredibly powerful force that I don't think any of them would disagree with. And of course businesses are going to grow up around giving away, around patients trying to exchange and give away marijuana.
Why the police came in here like this and attacked the only safe, legal place for patients to come in all of Arizona is beyond me. As I said before, there are places all across, hundreds of places across Arizona where you can right now go buy marijuana criminally. It's a black market. They're on Craigslist, they're on the internet, they're all over the place. Why they chose this as the first example is nothing more than a political attack, is all it is.
I mean, it was a very degrading experience. Mm-hmm. We've never been in trouble with the law before. And just to be taken down, set in a 4x4 cell, they take all your personal belongings, what you had left in your pocket, so they didn't make us leave here. And then they took us into the jail, in a car with the bars and everything on the windows, and told us not to talk to each other. And then they brought us in. We had to be searched. And then they put us in these little 4x4 cells, just like they do every other prisoner, I guess.
We offered to work with them repeatedly. The Phoenix Police Department took me up on my offer. They actually sent, this is a true story, they actually sent down, and it was 5 or 6 of their senior sergeants and their lieutenant. This is right after we opened up. They spent 2.5 hours taking a class with us so they can learn about what we're doing. They walked around through the whole facility, they checked everything, they looked at the marijuana, they looked at everything. They were overwhelmingly pleased. They extended their sincerest gratitude for offering the olive branch to them. They said, we welcome the opportunity to work with you. We consider you a legitimate legal business. They actually said that to us. They asked me and some of my staff to come around and train their police officers in the medical marijuana business and how the club is operated. And they sent out a memorandum to all their local patrol officers in the area saying, we consider the 2811 Club to be just like any other business in Arizona. You are not to harass them. If you get a phone, I'll show you the memorandum. If you get a call to the 2811 Club, you ought to show up there like you would at any other business. Today, this is no longer about marijuana. I don't care if you're pro-marijuana or against marijuana. This is about government abuse. This is about taking a legal program, the Arizona Medical Marijuana Act, and trying to scuttle it. Our politicians, the governor and Mr. Humble and Attorney General Horn, they have an obligation under the Constitution to uphold the laws of Arizona, not scuttle them like they try to do here today. It's an outrage. It really doesn't. It needs to be addressed. Every single citizen should be upset about this.
And thank you all for watching us tonight. I have done so much, and I just cannot believe that we have changed everything since I become your governor in the last 600 days. Arizona has been brought back from its abyss. We have cut the budget, we have balanced the budget, and we are moving forward. We have done everything that we could possibly do. We have did what was right for Arizona. I will tell you that I have really did the very best that anyone could do. We have pushed back hard against the federal government. We have filed suit against Obama healthcare, and we have passed Senate Bill 1070, and we will continue to do what's right for Arizona. I ask for your vote. Thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you all. Let's get to the conversation here. And
yesterday I was talking about the grand conspiracy many years ago, 50, 60 years ago, how just a couple of high-powered politicians and the representatives of our government got together and started this conspiracy to stop the proliferation of hemp in our country. And I was looking for a particular quote I couldn't find. I just came across, this is going to be shocking, and I want to apologize to anyone who's listening to this. I hope they don't get offended by this, but I'm reading something right out of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics. This was something that was read to Congress in order to get the United States Congress to criminalize hemp and marijuana. So I'm going to read this as a quote, okay? And this is from, let's see, this is from Harry J. Anslinger, who was the head of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics for 32 years. He was a friend, and he was a friend of William Hearst from the newspaper conglomerates, and there was a relationship there with DuPont, the chemical company, and they were all conspiring to stop hemp from being, they were trying to get it to be criminalized, rather, so you couldn't use it here in the United States. But here's the exact quote. It says, "There are 100,000 total marijuana smokers in the U.S. Most are Negroes, Hispanics, Filipinos, and entertainers. Their satanic music, jazz, and swing result from marijuana use. This marijuana causes white women to seek sexual relations with Negroes, entertainers, and any others. The primary reason to outlaw marijuana is its effect on degenerate races. Marijuana is an addictive drug which produces in its users insanity, criminality, and death. Reefer makes darkies think they're as good as white men." This is right out of the script. I'm serious, guys. "Marijuana leads to pacifism and communist brainwashing. You smoke a joint, you're likely to kill your brother. Marijuana is the most violent causing drug in the history of mankind." And he loved to put his own version of the assassin definition. He used to say, in addition, "In the year 1090, there was founded in Persia the religious or military order of the assassins, whose history is one of cruelty, barbarity, and murder, and for good reason. The members were confined users of hashish and marijuana, and it is from the Arabs hashism that we have the English word assassin." This is read into the annals of Congress, and based on this, our Congress criminalized marijuana and hemp. It's outrageous. If they said that today in Congress, they'd be hauled off and sued by every civil rights organization in the country. That's a fact.
All right. So what Al's doing had to happen?
Yeah, what Allan Sobel's doing in the 2811 Club had to happen, and it's unfortunate, but there had to become some type of conflict to resolve something, and that's what's happening right now. We're seeing that they came in, raided, and they came in with all this stamina that they were going to come and take everything and something's going to happen, and now look. A few weeks later, not even a long time passed, and nobody wants to claim responsibility for what he's doing. Why? Because he's doing it exactly how he should be. He's following the laws. He's using patients within patients and caregivers with caregivers. Exactly how the law has illustrated it out to us. And that's the main important thing that we need to be doing, especially as patients. And this is what I think Al's going to start doing, is getting the patient's voice out there. Because all these patients have now lost their opportunity to safe and legal access to their medicine. People like myself that cannot handle these harsh medicines because it will kill us. It will literally kill us. And there's lots of us out there. Lots of us that Allan Sobel, the 2811 clubs, and all these other clubs that are going to be coming out because of him.
My name is Allan Sobel. I am referred to, perhaps erroneously, as the godfather of marijuana here in Arizona. I don't take that name kindly, and quite frankly, I'm not here to talk about marijuana today. I'm not here to ask you to support marijuana. What I want to do is offer every single one of you that does not have a job, I want to offer you a job today. Because they're here, they're ready for you. You can get a job tomorrow morning, except for one thing is standing in the way, just one little thing. Governor Brewer, last November, the people of Arizona voted for medical marijuana. For the third time, you're absolutely right, sir, but this time it got passed. And this time we have something called the Voter Protection Act, which prevents the governor from interfering in that. But she found a legal loophole. She's asked the courts to do what she cannot do. She's trying to stop the medical marijuana program by asking the federal courts to intervene. Let me tell you something, I don't want to say any curse words, but that is bull. Okay? It's absolute bull. We're supposed to take care of, we have a serious government abuse problem. And that's what's happening right here in Arizona. Thank you. Please understand that if the governor did not stop the dispensary program, we would have approximately 125 dispensaries across Arizona right now, and every one of those would have brought hundreds of jobs, hundreds. You have to understand that this program has little tentacles that reach all across the economy of Arizona. Not just for the patients that really need this, and I'm not even going to get into that subject today. I just want to talk about the abuse side. But every single dispensary is going to have to rent a store. They're going to need to hire a realtor, a lawyer, a printer, an accountant. They're going to have to hire all kinds of other services. Transportation services, cooks. I mean, I can just keep on going. Every dispensary will account for hundreds and hundreds of jobs in the Arizona marketplace, and quite frankly, good paying jobs. Good paying jobs. The governor, if you're all out of a job, blame it on Governor Brewer. So I'm here today to ask you to support me and my organization in stopping government abuse. Thank you. It goes beyond Arizona. You see these signs going around here. You have to ask yourself why marijuana and hemp is illegal in the United States. It all goes back to corporate greed. And I thought that's what this organization is all about. Occupy Wall Street. Please understand that the people that control our major corporations, the stockholders, have financial interest in all these big corporations, the petroleum companies, the pharmaceutical companies, food, beverage companies. Nobody wants cannabis to be legal in this country because it will adversely affect the financial bottom line of these big corporations. So we've been chasing the wrong people here. We've been trying to get the government to decriminalize marijuana. It's not the government. It's the people that control the government. The elitist, influential people that own these big corporations, all these big buildings around here. They're looking down at us right now and they're saying, holy cow, man, we might be in trouble. They're forming a group here. We need to stand up to these people, folks. We need to put our foot down, draw a line in the sand. These people that control these corporations control the power. They control the tools and the resources that the government has. And this is not about marijuana, folks. This is about government abuse. And all I'm going to ask you to do is one thing. If you go to that website, seedtosuccess.com, there's a petition there. I don't care if you support marijuana or not. I don't care if you believe in it or not. I don't care if you use it or not. This affects every single citizen of the United States, and most importantly, every single citizen right here in Arizona. Sign that petition. It just says to get corporate America off our backs and free us up again. Thank you very much.
After Governor Brewer's hypocritical claim that federal courts should interfere with state law, as opposed to her fight to keep the Arizona Immigration Act in effect, the governor filed a case in federal court to stop the Arizona Medical Marijuana Act. According to a January 5, 2012 article by the HuffPost, U.S. District Court Judge Susan R. Bolton dismissed the case without prejudice, ruling that there is, quote-unquote, no genuine threat or imminent federal prosecution of state officials who carry out the law. Though giving Governor Brewer 30 days to amend her case, Judge Bolton said she is unconvinced that the state would be able to correct their case to where they would win. Allan Sobel and over 10,000 members of the American Association of Dispensary Professionals were the first to defend against the governor's complaints by stating that the governor had consorted with other government officials to thwart the will of the voters. According to the Arizona Voter Protection Act, the veto power of the governor shall not extend to an initiative measure approved by a majority of the votes cast thereon, or to a referendum measure decided by a majority of the votes cast thereon. Therefore, the Arizona Medical Marijuana Act is totally justified. The Arizona Voter Protection Act was specifically designed so the governor would not prevent a law from being passed when approved by a majority vote by Arizona citizens. As of this point, Governor Brewer was allowed to accept the Arizona Medical Marijuana Act or try appealing the decision, which would further delay the program. If the governor were to embrace the Arizona Medical Marijuana Act, it would stop wasting taxpayers' valuable time and money and create thousands of jobs for the unemployed and provide medicine for severely ill patients. With over 19,000 medical marijuana cards provided to Arizona patients with qualifying ailments, one would think there would be some way to legally obtain the voter-approved medication.